How y'all doing? Welcome back to the channel. We're getting ready to start video number 3 in our truck setup building series, where we're going to be working on how to set air pressures for your tires on the truck. The first thing we do is we just come into the garage here, and what I like to do is I like to start off with basically a 15-pound split on my tires for air pressure. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to set my left front tire to 30 psi, and I'm going to leave the right front at 45. It can go higher than that, but I thought 45 was the max, so we'll put that at 45 for the right front, leave the right rear at 45, and bring the left rear up to 30. We'll go ahead and apply that, do a quick once over, make sure everything's still legal and hasn't changed on us. We'll pull up our log file here, which got all of our stuff in it, so we can verify to make sure everything's still what it should be. Our right rear camber should be negative 1.4, and it is negative 1.3, so we'll bump that other way down. Our left rear camber should be, didn't want to do that, I wanted to bring that up. So left rear camber should be 1.4, and of course it's not. Now it is. Right front camber should be, what did we have that set to? 2.3. And it's down to 2.2, so we'll bump that back up to 2.3. The left front we don't care about. Our caster changed on us because I know that's supposed to be 8. That's good for 10, at 10. And today's going to be another bad allergy day, I think. Make sure our preload's down as close to 0 as possible without being negative. And now it is. Make sure we don't have any preload in the front sway bar. Toe in looks good, so we're ready to go out. Or at least I'm ready to go out. If you're following along, you'll probably be ready to do this as well. We're going to go out and we're going to run 20 laps and come in and check our tire wear. So I'm going to put you guys on a brief pause while I go out and do this, since this is a long racetrack and 20 laps isn't just 5 minutes and we're done. So I'll see you in a short bit. Alright, I just finished my 20 lap baseline run for the tire pressures. But before I record the data, I want to kind of go over with you a little bit about what tire pressures are and how they work. Tire pressure is basically the amount of air that's actually in your tires measured in pounds per square inch. And you're probably sitting there saying to yourself, yeah, Chad, I know that. Everybody knows that. But there's a few other things that you may not know about air pressure and how it affects the tire as well as the handling of your race truck. Now, the tire pressures basically affect how hot the tires will get when you're running, up to a point, because the higher the tire pressure, the stiffer the tire is going to be and the less flex will be in the sidewall as you're rolling down the racetrack. Also, higher pressures making the tires harder will reduce rolling resistance and allow you to have higher speeds. And if you take a look here real quick at our setup guide on tire pressures, we've already talked about how it makes it balloon out, making the tire larger. It does do that as well, which means that the tire pressures can be used to adjust stagger. Unfortunately, as we raise the tire pressure, we can't actually see how much of a diameter or change to the diameter of the tire it makes, so it's really difficult to calculate the actual amount of tire stagger. So basically what we would do is just use the actual difference in pressure between the tires as our stagger. So basically, and another thing to keep in mind with tire pressures is the temperature of the tire itself will affect the pressure of the tire. The hotter the tire is, the higher the air pressure in the tire is going to be. And as a general rule, for each 10-degree increase in temperature, the pressure will go up by 1 pound per square inch. And pressure also affects grip and handling a lot like a mini spring does. So making a change in tire pressure will be the equivalent of making a minute spring change, much smaller than what an actual spring change would be, because we're only dealing with a few pounds PSI per tire per change. So basically, when you boil it all down to it at the end, higher tire pressure will reduce grip, lower tire pressure will increase grip until temperature comes into play, because temperature will affect the amount of grip by affecting the pressure, which changes the overall shape of the tire and can affect the amount of traction available due to the amount of tread being in contact with the track, as we will see here in a moment as we go through and start logging our run. So the first thing I need to do is I need to go ahead and log my lap times. So I got to kind of pull that down a little bit smaller. And I got to get back into the truck so I can see what my lap times were for that run. And our fastest lap for run 1 was a 56.595. And then our last lap run of that run was a 57.667. And we turned 22 laps. I went 2 laps further than I really wanted to, but I lost track of the number of laps I was on. So, and that's not hard to do on a track as big as this one is. And it takes 20 minutes to get through a run. Now that we've got our times recorded, we're gonna go into the garage now. Here, as soon as I get that out of the way, get out of the truck. I'm gonna go ahead and jump into the garage, and we're gonna stay on the tires for right now because that's basically what we're playing with. Move that out of the way for just a moment. And the first thing we're gonna look at real quickly is our tread remaining amount. We want to see if it's even all the way across the tire tread face. And our right front is not. So it looks like we might possibly have a slight camber problem that we still need to address on the right front. And as a result, it looks like we'll have to fix that before we go too far as figuring the right front tire pressures. And then the next one we want to look at is our right rear tire wear and see if it's even all the way across. And in our case, we've got 93s across the tread, so that's all good. So we know that the right rear so far is okay. Now we'll move over to the left rear and again check the tire wear across the tread face of the tire. In our case, it's all 97, so that is actually good. Now we get up to the left front, and this is where we're going to run into kind of a slight issue. Since we don't have our camber specifically set for the left front tire, we really can't go off our tire wear as a guide. So basically, we're going to look at our tire wear here, and we can see that it's 97, 96, and 100. Which means the camber on the left front is off, but that's not a big deal. So we have to use another method to determine what our tire pressure is. And basically what we're going to do is we're going to basically figure out what our rear tire pressure should be, and then we'll adjust it by about 25% for the left front tire based on the other 4 tires. So basically what we're going to do now is, now that we've got our right front figured out as it's slightly off wear, what we really should do at this point is make our camber adjustment, which from the looks of it, I'll go ahead and do that right now. And where we're sitting with it is at 79, 78, 80. And we were originally on this for our right front, we were 75, 75, 75, 78. So we still need a little bit more negative camber on the right front. So let's go ahead and fix that right now. So we're going to take that down to negative 2.4 up the way. Now, unfortunately for that one, we're going to have to leave the tire pressure on that one alone. But we can look at the rest of the pressures. So we're going to come back here to our log sheet, go back to our garage. As soon as I find iRacing, there it is. And we're going to we'll work on the right rear for right now. So basically, since we're even all the way across the rear on the tread on the rear tire, our tire pressure probably is not too bad, but there's a way to even fine tune it even more. And that's going to be to look at the tire temperatures of the tread. In our case, we've got 200, 97, and 201, which tells me that this right rear tire is a little bit underinflated. We could probably bump that pressure up. Let's go up 2 pounds and see what happens to it. So up to from a 45 to a 47. So we'll go ahead and make the notes on our sheet here for the left or right rear tire rather. And in our case, we're going to go off of the tire temperatures. So for our right rear, which is right here, we're going to go 200 for the inside. Our middle is at 197. And our outside is 201. And the thing to keep in mind here is the hottest part of the tire is the part of the tire that is in contact with the racetrack. So in our case, since the center of our tire is just slightly cooler than either edge, that means that the tire is underinflated and it's not bulging the tire out far enough for the center section of the tire to be in contact with the track fully. So that's why we've got the slight difference in temperature. Now let's move over to our left rear tire and look at that one. And I'll come over here on my sheet. And we've got 97s across, which we already knew. And we have 245, 236, and 238. So our inside for the left rear is 245. Our middle for the left rear is 236. And our outside for the left rear is 238. And what that tells me is our inside temperature is cooler than either edge, but our outside edge on this left rear tire is significantly warmer than the rest of the tires. So in this case, again, we might have a slight camber problem, but since we've got enough difference here in temperature, we should be able to at least get the tire pressure taken care of. And this is at 30 psi right now. We went up 2 pounds on the right rear to correct that problem. So we're going to do the same here. We're going to go from a 32 or 30 to a 32. Apply that. And for now, we're just going to leave the left front alone. We'll come back and worry about that one once we get everything taken care of. And since I made an adjustment to the camber on the right front, we're going to go in the garage and we're going to take note of it in our sheet here, just so that we have it for future reference in case we need it again. So our right front camber, and our sheet says we're negative 1.4. In reality, we are at negative 2.4. For our right front. And I just screwed my right rear up, so I gotta go up here, 2.4. Oop. I hate when that does that. Cancel that out. So we need it to be negative 2.4. Then we got to double check our right rear, which actually, if I remember, I think we can just Control Z and it'll put us back how it was. There should be an edit up here somewhere. Edit. Unfortunately, we don't have. Unfortunately, I think I've lost that original right rear tire reading, so we're just going to have to go with what is currently in our left rear tire, which is 1.4, which is where it's currently set at now. So I think we may have actually kept the correct one. So well, what I'm going to do next, now that I've got that all noted on the tires here, now since I've got it noted on the air pressure side, all I've got right over here is just the temperature. So we're going to come back over to the alignment steering, and we're going to update our tread wear on the section for alignment. So our right front for this run, which is run number 3, the inside of the right was 79, which means we've lost about 1% of the right front tread on the inside edge. The middle is at 78, which is where it was before on our previous run, and our outside is at 80. Again, meaning that we didn't have any change there from the last run. So we'll go ahead and make a quick save to our file here. Just for safekeeping, to make sure we don't screw up and mess something up. That way we can get back to at least where we are now. And what I'm going to do is, since I've made the adjustments to the camber, I'm going to go ahead and click done on the garage. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and do a quick once over, make sure everything's still where we want it. And it appears to be so. Everything is within spec, so we'll go ahead and click done on the garage. I'm going to quit iRacing as per the course. Hit the test drive button again, load it back up, go out and run another 20 lap run, and we'll recheck again, and I'll see you then. Alright, I'm back after my 20 lap run. You should be as well. And we're ready to document our information that we recorded from this run. So for run number 2, we had a fastest lap time of a 56.443. And our last lap was a, where is it? 58.238. And we turned a total of 20 laps. So what we noticed from what we know from last time, we made some slight changes to our air pressures, as well as a slight camber adjustment. And since the final run of the first session to now, we have seen a very slight, it looks like a slight increase in lap time. We went from a 46.595 to a 56.595 to a 56.443 for our fastest lap, and then our final lap of the run, it looks like it might have slowed down a little bit for that. So we went from a 57.667 to a 58.238. So that's something we need to kind of keep in mind as we go through and do this, is we'll have to keep an eye on our lap times as well as our wear patterns, and kind of keep an eye open for trends so that we can get an idea of when we might be getting close to having this thing actually dialed the way we need it to for our tire pressures. Now that we got the lap times recorded, let's go ahead and grab our numbers for our tire wear and tire temperatures. So we're going to go ahead and go to our garage, and we're back in the tire section. While we're here, before we do anything, we're going to do a quick gander over the tire wear, and it looks like our camber is still off just a little bit. We can still, now we've got kind of a decision to make here. It's only off by 2%, which ain't a lot. We can either choose to ignore it and leave it alone and just go off tire or temperatures for our air pressures, or we can continue to try to bump that right front camber slightly more negative to help bring that tire wear more even. Now, when you start getting into camber section or camber adjustments, we've already done, I think, 2 or 3 adjustments to the camber on that right front wheel already. And eventually you get to the point where you hit diminishing returns, where you keep adjusting it and it doesn't get any better. It just stays where it's at. And I think that might be the case we're running into here. So it might be as good as it's going to get for the camber on that right front. So we're going to go ahead and just focus on our temperatures right now. So we're going to come back to our log sheet, go to our left or right front wheel. It's going to be right here. And our inside temperature on the right front is going to be 247 degrees. 247. The middle temperature is 238. The outside temperature on the right front is 244. It is 5 o'clock in the morning. That's why I hear the birds chirping. I don't know if you can hear them over the fan of my computer, but they're awake and they're chirping, letting us know that they're still there. Alright, so let's take a quick look here at what we got. So over our first run, oh boy, I did something wrong there, didn't I? Did I forget to record the original tire temperatures for the first run? It looks like I might have. But that's no big deal. We can just log them here as we got them now and just note them for future reference, because as we do more runs, as we make adjustments, we're just going to go ahead and we're just going to watch for trends as we go. So our right rear tire, that one I know I recorded, so our inside right rear is at a 203. Our middle on the right rear is at 200. And our outside on the right rear is 204. And what that shows us right here is the low tire pressure we had on the first run on that right rear tire. It looks like we've got that fairly close to being, we got that resolved for the most part, because our tire temperatures across the tire are pretty uniform. They're within 10 degrees of each other. So I'm going to go ahead and probably say that that's probably pretty good for that right rear. Now our left rear, we also forgot to record data for that one as well. Son of a biscuit eater. No shit, good thing I don't do this for a living. They'd fire my damned ass. Alright, so left rear inside is going to be a 245. Our middle temperature is going to be a 237. And our temperature is going to be 240. And as we can see here, it looks like we could probably stand to go up just a little bit more on this left rear. Unfortunately, I don't really have a place here. Well, there is a place to put tire pressures, isn't there? So we started off with 30 on the left side Unfortunately, I've only got really room for just one set of tire pressures at a time for only one run. I didn't have the room to add the rest of it on there. So what we'll do is we'll just put what our current, when we get done, we'll actually just put the actual optimal tire pressures in the chart there when we actually figure out what they are. So we've got our left front inside tire temperature is 190. Our middle tire temperature for the left front is 185. And the outside tire temperature for the right front is 177. So we're 15 degrees difference between the inside and the outside, or the middle and the inside, and about 10 degrees between the outside and the middle. So we could probably stand to bump that left front up a couple of more pounds. So let's take that up to a 32, just for giggles and shiznits. Our right rear we're probably going to leave alone, because that's pretty much going to be close enough. Our right front, we'll bump that one up 2 more pounds. Our right rear, we'll go up 2 more pounds on that one as well. We're at, what were we at, 32? Let's go up to 34. And see what we get when we do that after our next run. Now, whenever you change tire pressures, keep in mind tire pressures affect the diameter of the tire. It makes it larger, which will raise the car up if you increase the pressure. Or if you lower the pressure, it will lower the car. So keep that in mind as you're making your adjustments to your tire pressures. It will affect your ride heights. So whenever you change your tire pressures, always go back and check to make sure your ride heights are still good. In our case, we got some preload in there we got to get rid of. Our ride heights are all still passing tech. And all that kind of thing. So our truck arm preload is as close to 0 as it's going to get without being negative, because it's at 0.01 foot-pounds. So we've got that all basically covered right there. And another thing to keep in mind with tire pressures, since tire pressures do affect ride height, we can use tire pressures as an alternative way to fine-tune our cross weight. When we get to that point, I'll talk more about that. And also, since it affects ride height, you can make adjustments to your tire pressures if you don't happen to have your ride height set correctly when you're building the setup and you go out on the racetrack and start running it. Say for instance you're going around the track and you can hear the splitter hitting the ground. You might be able to get it to stop scraping, probably not 100%, but at least possibly make some difference to get it to stop scraping as bad by just increasing your tire pressures on the front tires during a pit stop to help raise that front ride height a little bit to give it a little more clearance. So that's just another thing to keep in mind. So not only can we adjust the ride height and adjust our cross weight with our tire pressures, but we can also adjust very fine-tuned or very minutely adjust our spring rates with our tire pressures, which will affect our handling, and we can do that during a pit stop. And that comes in handy for being able to fine-tune the handling as track conditions change during the course of a race, or if we have a major change in temperature between our last practice or qualifying and the actual start of the race. That can come in very handy if we need to make adjustments to our tire pressures to help with handling once we get underway. So basically, now that I've got that part done there, I'm going to go ahead and jump out of the garage. And as we did before, we're going to quit iRacing. Save our sheet here. Now luckily we've got some number data there to go for the next run. We didn't forget nothing that time from the looks of it. So let's go ahead and save this guy. Save as, browse, Pocono, save. Yes, alright. Now I'm going to minimize that, go back to iRacing. We'll start the test drive service, and then I'll go out and run another 20 laps, and we'll take another peek at our tire pressures and lap times, or tire temperatures and lap times, and see how we're doing. I'll be back in a short bit here after I run my 20 lap run. Alright, I've just finished the last 20 lap run. So we're going to go through and we're going to record our information here real quick. And it looks like we've got fastest lap time now for run number 3 of the 56.589. Our last lap time of the run was a 58.118. And that was a 20 lap run. And from what I can just see, just looking at the lap times here, it looks like our first run of this video was a 56.59, and our last run of this video was a 56.58, which means that particular run was a little faster than the very first one. Our last run before that, run number 2, was a 66.44, which was probably our fastest run of the deal so far. So that would basically be where I'd want to keep that tire pressure, is right basically there. And what we might want to consider doing is along the margin over here someplace, write down the tire pressures. Might have to move that out of the way, but come like over here somewhere and just put the tire pressure for each run. We might actually have to get rid of this little thing or move it or something, but I put the tire pressures for each tire in each run's column. I should have probably did that to start with, but I didn't think anything of it at the time. Couldn't really figure out a place to put it. I tried to do something up here, but it didn't quite go as planned. But now that we've got our times here, let's go down to our garage and see what our tire temperatures look like. So we're in the tire section. Our right front looks like we are dealing with, pull that down one more so I can see, 233. On the inside, the middle is a 228. Outside is a 232. So right now that tells me that our tire temperatures that right front could probably go up just a skosh more. Then we're going to look at our left rear tire temperature. And we got 228 middle is at a... Oh, that's the wrong one. That's right front. We need... So our right front inside was, for this last run, was so the inside of the right front is 233. Then we have a 228 and then 232, which is the exact same thing we had the run previously. The left front was a 180. Inside middle was a 177. Outside is a 168. And what I'm seeing on the left front is it looks like we might be getting pretty close on that particular tire. We got our right front down our left rear. There's a 228. On the inside, 220 on the middle. And the outside is at 224. Whoop. 224, not 222. And what we're seeing with this particular one, with the trending we're seeing as we're going up in tire pressure for our right left rear tire, we are looking like that one might be starting to get close as well. Because that inside, or yeah, the outside, middle are within 4 degrees of each other. The inside and middle are within 8 degrees of each other. And then our right front, those are all within 10 degrees of each other. So everything is starting to gel with this particular deal here. So unfortunately, we might have to cut this particular video short for the tire pressures, because today is actually Monday, July 1st, and if you're an iRacing user, which most of you probably are going to be, I'm sure you've seen this message popping up. If I can get to my iRacing here. There it is. Where we go up here to the notifications, and they're talking about release dates for the season 2 patch release, which is coming this morning. It would be 8 o'clock daylight time, Eastern Daylight Time, which would be 7 o'clock my time, which is about an hour from now. That means iRacing will be going down to do their season 3 patch, and that means it's going to be down for about 4 hours or so. And if I knew it was just going to be 5 minutes for them to do the update and we'd be back on, I just leave the video paused, the recording paused, and just come back after iRacing came back up. But anybody who's been around iRacing long enough to know how their update process works knows that this patch release is going to be probably a 4-hour ordeal, and I don't want to leave this thing just sitting here paused for 4 hours, because that just doesn't make any sense. So what we're going to do is I will probably come back here after iRacing comes back and finish this particular setup for the tire pressures for the setup that I'm building right now off camera. And you guys can also do the same thing once iRacing comes back up for you guys. Just continue with the steps that you have been doing. Just increase the tire pressure in 2 psi increments while monitoring the tire temperature across the center of the tire, or across the tread face of the tire. And the goal is to get the tire temperatures as close together as possible and have them all be roughly within 10 degrees of each other. And once you get to the point where you start to see your lap times start to deteriorate and get worse, that's a pretty good indicator that you pretty much hit the sweet spot for your tire pressures. So unfortunately, it looks like we're going to get ready to get booted here in about an hour. So there's really not really much, don't really going to have the time to continue going with this before they kick us off of here and we can't do any more testing. So I'm going to go ahead and end the video now, and the next video is going to be where's our tabs at? So we're currently doing air pressure, so video number 3 is going to be where we start to build our spring packages. That's where we put clothes on this thing and start walking it down the street as we get our setup built, because the spring package is going to be one of the biggest influencing parts of your setup as far as how it handles, how it uses tires, and all kinds of other things. A lot of the magic will happen in your spring package. So we will be back for that once I get in a position where iRacing comes back online and I can start getting back in here and testing again. We'll just move right into the spring package video, which will be video number 3, or third part of this series. But in the meantime, if you like what you've seen so far, don't forget to like and subscribe and click that notification bell so you know when we upload the next video for this series, and then we shall see you then. In the meantime, take her easy, buds and gals.